Great. So
Right.
yeah, welcome everyone to today's Startup Business Basics presentation that we're hosting alongside the City of Edmonton. And again, my name's David Beta. I'm Client Services Manager with Business Link, and I have with me my colleague Christine as well. So we have a full hour here to kind of go through your questions relating to starting a business. A bit about myself very briefly. I've been with Business Link over 15 years. And yeah, it's been a great experience. I've had the pleasure of working with thousands of entrepreneurs right across Alberta. And Christine, did you just want to do a very quick intro for yourself?
Sure, thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Christine Nonchwag. I have been with Business Inc. for 8 months, and I am a business strategist. So I work with David and our team of business strategists, and we help entrepreneurs that want to start a business or anyone really at any stage of business to, keep your business growing and thriving. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Christine. So for today's webinar, we're going to be learning a bit about Business Link, who we are, what we do, what our services are. And then we'll dive into three of kind of the core foundations of getting a business up and running. So that relates to business planning, how to research and write a business plan, also financing, how financing works, what options are available. And then we'll jump into the actual startup steps. So how to legally get your business up and running. And if folks want to just quickly share in the chat, I'd love to learn a little bit about you and your business. So Claudia, if we could maybe back the slides up. One more. There we go. So just what is your business idea? If you could please just type that in the chat. Would love to get to know some of the business owners or prospective business owners joining us on the call today. Yeah, that will be great. And now we'll jump into About Us and Business Link. And so I'll pass things over to Christine, who will chat about who Business Link is.
All right, thank you, David. Okay, so who is Business Link? We are a nonprofit. We are funded by the government of Alberta and the government of Canada. And we've been helping small business to start and thrive since 1996. So that is quite a long time. And our mission really is to serve all business owners in Alberta. So like I said in the beginning, no matter the stage where you are, if you're just starting, you can come to Business Link. If you are, if your company is 5 years old, 10 years old, and you're stuck somewhere, you can come to Business Link. So anything business related, feel free to come to Business Link. Next slide, please. Right, so what we do is divided in 3 categories. So the first one that we're, I guess, mostly known for is our business advice service. So the way that works is, for example, you have an issue and you don't know what to do, you can reach out to our team and you can chat with a business strategist. So it's a one-on-one session, and we will go over, what your current situation is, what you're trying to achieve, what you're trying to conquer, really, and we will help you think about new ways to do new things. For example, if you are just about to start a business and you have no idea what to do, we can do that too. So it's pretty much business coaching. And the second category,
it's completely free.
Yes, it is completely free, and there's no limit to how much we can talk. So let's say today you come and you book a meeting and we don't talk about everything you wanted to talk about. We can definitely book follow-up meetings. So as much as you need to talk to us, that's how much will be there for you. So don't hesitate to reach out. So yes, the second category is business education. So we host live webinars, workshops. We had, I think last week or last month, we had something related, for example, to how to use ChatGPT. We have webinars on, sorry, we have every webinars on, using Canva, anything like that. We also have a lot of educational resources. So on our website, you'll see a lot of guides that you can download. You'll see a lot of blogs, a lot of information really. We also have a weekly newsletter, and we do host events from time to time. So the last one that we hosted was the Newcomer Entrepreneur Forum last year, and that was a great event. And we will have one this year too. So stay tuned for that. And the third category of services we have is business support services. So that's really it's more focused on what you need to build your business plan. So, for example, we have this tool on our website called the Interactive Business Plan Builder. So it's like a software that will help you write out your business plan. So for every category, you'll have something that will explain to you what is supposed to be in this category, and then you will have some examples. And yes, you'll be taken step by step in writing your business plan, because this is something that can be daunting for some people. But the interactive business plan builder breaks it down into really easy steps. We also have secondary market research, so that goes into your business plan as well. So if you need any research on statistics, numbers, industry trends, anything like that, that's secondary market research. And this is something we can do for you. And once again, it is free. And lastly, well, we don't help people write out their business plan, but we surely can help you review your business plan. So if you have one and you need someone to take a look at it, we can do that for you, and we can give you some points of improvement on some sections, and yeah, you can improve your business plan that way. So that's pretty much what we do at Business Link. Next slide, please. Yeah, so I pretty much went over everything that we do. So yes, our programs. We also have a few programs. So this first one is called Digital Economy Program. It's a program where you are equipped with digital marketing knowledge. So for example, let's say today, for example, let's say you have a website and you're looking for ways to optimize your website and you don't know how to do that, you can apply for DEP. So in the digital economy program, how it works is you apply for it, and if you're accepted into the program, you'll be matched with a digital service squad member, and you'll talk about what you actually need. So it's not like a training, it's not like a cookie cutter training. It's really something that is curated in the way that works best for you. So if you want to learn about optimization, we won't make you learn email marketing, for example. So this program will really be built on what you're looking for. And again, it is free. The next one is the Canada Digital Adoption Program. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that. So this one is a grant. It's a $2,400 grant that will help you grow your business online. So, for example, let's say that you just got your website done, or you're planning to get your website done and you don't have the funds for that. You can apply for the digital economy program, and these $2,400 can be used to pay for redoing your website, for example. And yes, you also be able to be matched with e-commerce advisors if you need some advice and some support. So the criteria to get into the CDAP and the DEP are all on our website. So I invite you to visit our website to find out the eligibility criteria. But for the DEP, the criteria is it's much easier to get in the DEP because the criteria are a bit more gentle, if I can say it like that. But as long as you qualify, you can apply for either program, and we'll be happy to work with you. Yes, so this is I guess the new member of the family, the mentor program. It's a free program. Again, pretty much anything we do at Business Inc. is free. So the mentor program is a really great program where a mentor and a mentee are matched. So, if, for example, today you feel that you need a mentor in business, you can apply to be a mentee, and we will match you with a mentor that fits. What you're trying to learn, what you're trying to do, what you're trying to achieve. So that is a great support environment where if you need some kind of support. Next slide, please. Yes, and our peerpreneur session. So peerpreneur is a program where we put entrepreneurs in a group, and the goal is that they help each other discuss their business concerns and figure out the solutions together. So they brainstorm solutions, they give advice to each other, they really support each other, and it also helps them grow their network. So it's a virtual group discussion. It's over 4 weeks. And yeah, it's a really great time to meet other people, to talk about business with other people. And yeah, in those sessions, you realize that you're not the only one going through this, the issues that you think you're the only one going through. And there's always someone to help you. So Peerpreneur is really wonderful. We actually just started a cohort, but you can always apply whenever we advertise for it. And I think lastly is the interactive business plan builder. The next slide. But yes, I already spoke about it. So it's our software that helps you write out your business plan. If you are stuck in business plan writing, I really encourage you to use the business plan builder. It will really, really help you. I'm using I'm using it for my business, so I really like it. So I really, really advise you to use the interactive business plan builder. All right, so the next session is planning. So we'll talk about everything that you need to do before you start a business, and I will let David take over.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Christine. So our next section will talk about business planning and research. So I guess the big thing is, what is an entrepreneur? That might be a question that you ask yourself. In some cases, and it doesn't really matter what you're called, right? You could be an owner operator, a vendor, an independent contractor, a side hustler. By whatever name you go by, you're still kind of an entrepreneur or small business owners. So just kind of keep that in mind as you kind of work through things. Now, when it comes to starting a business, you want to make sure you are ready and prepared to be an entrepreneur. A few key questions you may want to start thinking about would be things like, why are you starting a business, and do you have a business idea? So are you starting a business to maybe support you or your family? Are you starting a business, maybe you want to convert a hobby or a passion that you do to something that can make money? Are you looking to maybe make use of your talents? Really think about what your idea is. Next, you want to also explore, do you have maybe the personality? Are you an introvert or extrovert? And it could be good or bad depending on what type of business you're starting. Um, do you have the necessary skills to be able to start the business or education required? Sometimes it may relate to experience working out in the field. And lastly, the mindset to kind of be your own boss. And then another consideration is, are you willing to put in the long hours? Some people quit their full-time 40-hour-a-week job only to realize that being an entrepreneur might be actually a 50, 60, or 70-hour-a-week journey. So kind of keep that in mind. It can take a lot of time to get a business up and running. You'll also want to think about, do you have enough money to get the business going, right? Where will that money come from? And are you okay with risk, right? When you're starting a business, there's no guarantee that things are going to actually work out. So you want to make sure you are okay with that risk in getting things going. And then lastly, do you have a support system? This could come in different forms. Maybe there's a family member that you have who's an accountant or a lawyer who can provide free advice for you. Or maybe it's a really good best friend that you have that can really act as your cheerleader or supporter, right? To kind of help you out on the lows of entrepreneurship and really kind of get you excited and continuing on your journey. So the last piece is an important one as well, and that relates again to your support system. You'll also want to make sure you are finding the right opportunity. Quite often, a lot of people look at identifying a problem that your business can solve. Quite often, again, that's the easiest way is find a problem out there in the world and try to come up with potential ideas and solutions to solving that problem. Quite often, a business can be born by that simple exercise alone. So again, take a look at what are some of the problems out there in the world and how can you maybe offer a solution. Now it's important to also look at conducting early research to kind of evaluate the idea. You can look at things like trends um, as well. We'll just go back a slide here. So look at things like trends, market size, your competition, your customer segments, things like that. Next, you'll want to refine your concept, really look at designing your value proposition, which is kind of why you exist, and also identify your ideal target market. So who are your customer segments that you really want to reach out to? You'll want to validate that there is true value in your product or service offering and that there is a sufficient market size. And you also want to find ways of making your brand unique. How are you going to stand out from the competition? What's going to be your unique selling proposition? So that's all about finding the right opportunity. And you really want to make sure that whatever it is you're developing, that people are willing to pay you money for your product or service that you're creating. Okay, so next slide. And within that, you'll be doing market research. And market research is really that process of gathering information. And it includes everything from looking again at your overall market, understanding your customers, looking at the industry, considering your competitors out there in the marketplace, looking at trends to see if your business idea kind of aligns with those things. And doing that market research, you'll see these kind of cubes here. Really think about why you're doing market research, what you want to find out, how you're going to go about gathering that information. Then you actually have to do the research, review the research that's coming in, and then apply that research and make good strategic business decisions based off of that. So we'll talk about kind of the types of market research next here. And there are two types that we'll briefly discuss. The first one is primary market research, and the second one is secondary market research. You'll probably need to utilize both of these when you're developing your business idea. And primary market research is gathering information firsthand so that you're collecting yourself. Whereas secondary market research is really looking at existing information and data that's already out there for you. And the data collected can be described as being qualitative, which is a bit more descriptive. It answers the how and the why. So a lot more dealing with like words and feelings and behaviors and attitudes. And that's described as qualitative. And on the other side, we have quantitative, which is a bit more factual. So kind of more numbers and percentages. And it really answers questions relating to how many or how much or how often. So again, you'll have to utilize both of these to aid in kind of your strategic decision making as it relates to your business. Now, how can you go about doing market research? Well, again, there's quite a few different ways you can go about it. Primary market research, quite often it's, again, collecting information directly from potential customers. So if you're going to do maybe a 10 to 20 question survey, again, that would be primary market research. If you're maybe going to do a focus group or chat with prospective customers, maybe ask them questions on social media. Maybe you're at networking events and you could talk with people. Sometimes you might be able to go and observe, right? People out at different businesses. How many people are going into the the business? What types of people are entering the space? How much maybe are they spending on each transaction? All of that is a good part of primary market research. Usually when it comes to surveys, you want to have a minimum data set of about 30 surveys. The more the better, but if you can start with at least 30, that's a really good number to kind of start getting some data that you'll be able to kind of look at analyzing and maybe notice some trends within it. And then secondary market research here, that's information from databases, statistics, published materials. So it could be from databases like Statistics Canada. There's also other databases you might be able to find for free online, some information. But I know BusinessLink can also assist you with secondary market research. We do have access to some of those databases where you can get some data. And data could be demographics. It could be trend information. It could be financial ratios for your type of business. It could be demographics, statistics, information that you're looking relating to competitors or suppliers that are out there. Again, all of that is secondary market research. You could also find it from published materials or news articles that maybe you've researched online. Again, so you'll probably utilize both primary and secondary market research. One helpful tool that a lot of people look at doing before business planning is called Business Model Canvas. And it's kind of a strategic tool that can help you to visualize your business model. And you'll see there's 9 different building blocks on here. I like to refer to it as kind of like a one-page business plan. And it really helps you just kind of get everything down on one page, one sheet of paper, and it helps you kind of see connections. So it's really important that you have a business model that seems like it's going to work, right? Everything relates to one another. So this kind of helps you to do that. Again, you'll see there's 9 different building blocks. This tool is freely available online. It also goes by another name. There's a very similar one called Lean Canvas that you could also look at utilizing. So definitely check that out. And we also have training on that as well. There's lots of other organizations out there that do training on this as well. So one of the big pieces is kind of looking at writing a business plan. And there's a lot of different reasons why you'd want to write a business plan. Quite often it's to help you get everything down on paper, and it kind of acts as a roadmap for yourself, kind of like a recipe that you're going to be following. And what it is a written document. It's usually about 15 to 30 pages that thoroughly describes what your business is, what your goals are, all the major aspects of running your business, including your marketing strategies, your operational plan, your financials, all of that. In the ideal world, you'd be able to give your business plan to someone who doesn't know anything about your business, and they'd be able to start, run, and launch it, and not having to ask you a single question. So the more detail, the more depth you can put into your plan, the better off you'll be. And again, it just helps make sure that you've researched things, you've analyzed the data, you're making some decisions, you're getting things down on paper. I know quite often when you actually start your business, you're going to be very busy operating and running it. You're not going to have time to go back and start thinking about what your first Facebook ad is going to look like, or what CRM system you're going to use. So kind of get all of that detail out at the beginning, plan for it, and you'll be much better off. And what are the major sections of a business plan? We have a few of them listed here. They include things like executive summary, description, market research and marketing. Next, we have your management team, your operations, your financials, and lastly, your appendix and references. And how can you go about writing a business plan? So there are a number of ways that you can use to get started. So next slide, we'll just mention some of those. So you can find sample templates and plans online. Us here at Business Link, we can help provide some resources as well on that. There might be webinars or workshops. At the end of the day, you just have to get writing on it. You have to get started, whether you're going to write it on paper or digitally, kind of get it going. A lot of people are maybe using a bit of AI now, so Chat GPT could help with maybe building some of the framework. Um, Again, it's not going to be very specific, but it could help you kind of develop kind of the bones of your business plan. Be sure to get feedback and input from people. Don't take things personally. And yeah, there's plenty of additional tools out there as well. So next, we'll quickly jump to our financing section, and I'll pass things over to Christine. Just keeping an eye on time here. We're at about 10:30. We're about halfway through. Yeah, and we'll let Christine go.
All right, thank you, David. Okay, this section is going to be relatively quick. So yes, part of the whole planning aspect of starting a business includes your finances. You want to figure out what your finances are going to look like before you start the business. There's a reason why you have to do all of these things before, so please follow the process. So the first thing, so there are four big questions that you want to ask yourself. So the first thing, what are going to be my biggest expenses? So if you plan to have a location, how much is leasing going to be? If you want to have employees, how much is that going to cost? Do you need to buy any equipment? Do you need to buy inventory? How much is it going to cost for marketing? How much is it going to cost for all of the registration steps and all of that? All of these costs build up really quickly, and you want to know how much you need before you start. Obviously, you can't know everything in the very beginning, but you need to have an idea as close to reality as possible. So, going into the second question, what is the total approximate dollar amount that you need to start? So you calculate all of that. So this is why you need to ask yourself the first question, so that you can have that amount. Now, you also need to know, okay, if let's say I need $10,000 to start this business, how much money am I investing personally? So, do you have any savings that you can use to start the business? Are you going to ask family and friends to invest in your business? These are all questions that you need to ask yourself. And yes, of course, if you don't have enough money, where is the rest going to come from? So that leads us to the next slide. So, yes, when you do not have all of the funds that you need to start a business, you then need to explore what financing options are available to you. So the first one that people think about is, getting a loan. So debt. So you take a loan, and then you have to pay interest. Um, Not everybody needs to start with a loan. Sometimes just save money. And because if you're starting a business and you really have it to pay interest and all of that, it can be quite stressful. So I mean, it's an option, but don't always let it be your first option. Then you have equity. So equity is money exchanged for a portion of the company profits into the future. So you agree, let's say someone wants to invest in your business, so they give you money, and then in return, you know that, okay, let's say in 5 years or 10 years, they will have a share of the company profits. A lot of small businesses don't think about this idea, but this is really something that you want to look into as well. And then you have specialized financing. So any programs available for certain demographics or communities in Alberta. So, for example, there are some programs for Black entrepreneurs. There are some grants for Indigenous people. There are some grants for people from a certain age. Really, depending on the demographic you're in, there there is most likely something that fits your demographic. So please keep these please be aware that these programs do exist and they are available. Then you also have grants and subsidies. So anything from the federal government, from the Alberta government, from the City of Edmonton, there is always some kind of grant available. And you also have alternative resources like crowdfunding. So for specialized financing, grant subsidies, and alternative sources, one website that you can use is the Business Benefits Finder. So it will pretty much help you find out what financing options are available for your business and your location. So it's really something that you want to look out for. Next slide, please. Yes, so I mentioned it briefly, but yes, so these are the options that people consider the most when they're starting a business. So a lot of people just save money and then they put it into the business. And then you have bank loans and you have, family, friends, partners. Family, friends is you'll also hear it called being called love money. So this is also something that can help you. And yeah, you can see from this graph that most of the money, most people use personal funds to start their business. It really helps you, remove liability, like heavy liability from the beginning. So this is something to consider as well. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so debt financing. So when you apply for a business loan, institutions will look at five criteria, five areas, and it's called the 5 C's of lending. So this will help you understand what they look out for when they are pretty much evaluating whether they should give you the loan or not. So the first one is your capacity. So you should prove that your business has will generate enough cash flow to repay the loan. And this is why it's very important for you to work on your financial part of the business plan. Because when you go to a bank, the first thing they're going to ask you is your business plan, and they're going to skip right to the financial part because that's what is going to tell them um, how likely you are to pay back the loan that you're asking. So that is something that they are going to ask you for, and they're also going to look at your credit score, your personal credit score. So very important. The second C is capital. So are you able or willing to invest your own money into your venture? Are you willing to invest your own time? So again, this is where it's really good to have some personal finances that you can put into the business. And this will also prove to them that you're serious about what you're doing. And then the third C is conditions. So that will be the rate of interest, the length of time to repay, and pretty much other criteria will be discussed. Then you have the fourth C called collateral. So sometimes they will use some of the assets that you have, um, as collateral if the loan cannot be repaid. So, for example, if you have a property that could be used as collateral. So in the case that you're not able to pay back the loan, then they will pretty much take those assets to pay back the loan. And did I talk about character? Yes, and character. So do you have the skills? Do you have the knowledge? Do you have the experience to operate a business? So that works a lot in your favor as well. And you also want to think about things like how you dress when you go meet your banker. These are all things that count, and your first impression counts a lot, and you really need to take care of this when you do meet your bank when you're asking for a loan. So yes, things to keep in mind. They will look at your credit score. So do your best to have a good credit score. They'll look at your personal investment. They will look at your business plan. So you cannot go to a bank yet. If you don't have your business plan, they will look at if you have assets or collaterals, and they will look at the education and experience that you have. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is just pretty much a summary of what I just mentioned. So in personal money, you have your savings, your investments account, your credit cards, friends and family. In the grant option, so anything from by the city, by the government of Alberta, government of Canada, some economic development agencies, and lastly for financing, yes, you have loans, but you also have investors, you have credit unions, specialized lenders. Really, there are many options that you can look into. Right. So once you have done all of that, now you can start your business. So don't start anything before doing all of the things that we've been talking about right now. And yeah, David will now go into what you need to do to start your business, and you'll see it's the easiest part of the process. So over
Awesome. Thanks, Christine. Yeah, financing is definitely important, right? You kind of need money to get a business going, and you need to also make sure you make money too. So those two are really, really important elements. So we're going to jump into starting a business and what some of the steps are you're needing to take to get things going. We've broken them down into 6 steps here that we'll be going through, and you can learn a bit more about each of those steps as we move forward. So when it comes to step 1, that relates to choosing a business structure. And the business structure is really important because it's going to determine things like what your liabilities are, how you're actually going to get paid, and how you're going to be taxed as well on that income that's coming in. So your business structure is a critical part, and one of the first decisions that you need to make when you're launching your business. Now, getting into the different business structure types that you can choose when you're getting things going. I would say the most popular ones would be sole proprietorship and corporation, but there is also partnership as well. And basically, sole proprietorship is one individual who's going to operate the business just themselves. Partnership is 2 or more people agreeing to enter into business together. A corporation is when you're forming a completely separate legal entity from yourself. And then we also have their society, nonprofit, cooperatives, and social enterprise. We won't have too much time to get into those, but those could be potential options if you're maybe looking for a nonprofit route. But we're going to focus on the for-profit options available to you. So next, we're going to go into the pros and cons of each of the business structure types, just so you know a little bit more about them. We'll start out with sole proprietorship. Again, that's where just one person is the business. The big advantages is you have it's really easy to set up, very easy to operate, much less expensive. So again, the big things are easy to start, and it's a lot cheaper to get things going. Another advantage is you as the owner get to make all of the business decisions, you get all the profits, and a bit easier accounting requirements. But there are some drawbacks, some disadvantages. The primary one being unlimited liability, which means that should anything happen under the course of business, you'd be personally liable for any debts. So kind of keep that in mind. If something happens under the course of operations, you as the business owner, the sole proprietorship, would be liable. So potentially you could be sued, things like that, and your personal assets could be at risk. Another disadvantage is you don't have any partners in this structure. You don't really have name protection, and a bit of lack of continuity as well. But that is an option. Some people decide to go that route for fairly simple business types, I would say. Next, we will look at partnership. So a partnership, again, is very easy to form, very inexpensive. The biggest advantage is you get to kind of connect resources with other individuals. So you can share resources, shared decision making, shared profit, shared risk. So kind of keep that in mind. There are some advantages, but there are also disadvantages. So with a partnership, You again have what's called unlimited liability. So should anything happen, um, and the partnership would be sued, and all partners a part of that partnership um, would yeah, assume that liability. So they'd assume the debts and obligations. So again, everyone is a part of the partnership. There's also potential for conflict, right? Maybe you're not going to get along with your partners. There could be concerns and issues there. So that's some of the disadvantages when it comes to partnership. It's recommended to have a partnership agreement drafted so that people within the partnership know how things are going to operate, how decisions are going to be made, things like that. And then lastly, we'll jump to corporation. So a corporation, like I mentioned earlier, is a completely separate legal entity. The biggest advantages is you have limited liability. That basically means that should anything happen, it would be limited to the assets held within that corporation. Um, the other advantage is you could issue shares, so maybe an easier time to raise capital. It can be seen as being more professional. There could be some tax advantages as well, and ownership is transferable. And yeah, there are advantages, but there are also disadvantages. So it is much more expensive to set up and a lot more complicated paperwork when it comes to a corporation. I usually say maybe 10 to 20 times more complicated and costly compared to like a sole proprietorship. So just kind of keep that in mind. A corporation is more closely regulated as well. There's a lot more requirements there. So kind of keep that in mind when making your decision. You may also want to seek legal or tax advice from an accountant before making that business structure decision. Now, to actually go about registering the name, that step leads us to step 2 for sole proprietor. You'd register what's called a trade name, and you'd do that at a registry office. The form you'd complete is called Declaration of Trade Name. It's usually around $100 for that. Now, when it comes to partnerships, again, to register a partnership, you're going to fill out a declaration of partnership form at a registry office. The cost is around $100 or so. And again, it's recommended to have a partnership agreement if you decide to go that route. That's something you would manage yourself, though. And the last major business entity type is corporation. So I mentioned earlier, it is a completely separate legal entity. You usually know you're dealing with a corporation because you're going to be using the extensions LTD, INC, or Inc. or CORP at the end of it. Now, when you choose a corporation, you can either choose to incorporate a provincial or a federal corporation. And yeah, that's kind of a decision you'll have to make. Even provincial corporations can still do business across the country or even internationally. It's just different acts that they follow. There are some added costs when it comes to federal corporation. I think the biggest advantage to federal is you have a degree of name protection right across Canada with a federal corporation versus provincial, where it would just be kind of within Alberta. And then if you do decide to incorporate, you could look at incorporating yourself. The paperwork can be fairly complicated at the registry office, so I don't usually recommend trying to figure that out yourself because you're probably not a lawyer. But there are do-it-yourself incorporation kits that you can purchase that can help you with the paperwork. They're very affordable. There are also online providers that can assist you again with filling out the paperwork. Or if you want to make sure everything's kind of done correctly and you have questions, you might be better to just go through a lawyer or a law firm, and they can help you set up your corporation, and they can help manage the corporation for you as well. And there are 3 forms you do have to fill out. You need a nuance report if you're going to be doing a named company. And there are 3 forms: articles of incorporation, notice of address, and notice of directors. And the cost, if you're doing it yourself, around $600 or $700. If you're going through a lawyer, probably $1,000 to $1,500. Okay. And you can use any of those extensions. It is kind of completely up to you which extension you want to use, LTD, Inc., or CORP, when you do the corporation. Okay, and there are additional requirements to running a corporation. You need to file your annual return, not to be confused with your corporate tax return. So you need to do those things. That keeps your corporation in good standing order. You need to also maintain a minute book. Your minute book, again, it's one of the obligations. That's where you're going to have your shareholder agreement, your bylaws, your subscription for shares, your meeting minutes. All of that will be retained in your minute book. You'll probably want to be working with an accountant because, like I mentioned, a corporation has fairly significant kind of tax and legal requirements. So kind of keep that in mind. And if you're doing anything a bit more complex, again, please consider getting that professional advice from a lawyer or an accountant. Okay. And then moving on to step 3, we're getting into kind of some of the things relating to licensing. And I think whether you call it license, permit, regulations, it all kind of falls under the same thing. These are just kind of various rules set by the government in order to protect the public, employees, the environment, and business owners. And these could include regulations or acts on municipal levels, provincial levels, or even federal levels. So kind of keep that in mind. The first we'll jump into on the next slide deals with municipal. So that would be through the City of Edmonton here if you're going to be operating. Usually it includes 3 main areas, your land use and zoning. We also have your building permits and safety codes, and then finally your business licensing as well. Usually that's the first place you tend to go to register, to get your business license is through the city. And next we have potentially provincial regulations that you might need to be aware of. Some of those would include things like food-based businesses. You might need a food handling permit from Alberta Health Services. There could be occupational health and safety or employment standard rules you have to follow, consumer protections. There are also special categories for some licensed businesses. These would be things like prepaid contractor business license or door-to-door sales. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, electricity sales, I think auctions. So there are some business types that might require, again, specific licenses from the province. And lastly, we have federal regulations. These could be things relating to consumer goods, products for mass consumption, travel and transportation, financial services. Some of the enforcement agencies would be like Health Canada, if maybe you're doing a cosmetic product. Canada Border Services Agency, if you're importing or exporting your product. And Canada Food Inspection Agency, if you're doing kind of more elevated food products as well. So again, the big takeaway here is make sure you do your research, see what's out there. There are a lot of different types of businesses, and you want to make sure you've, again, done your homework to make sure you've kind of looked at some of these different examples. Now, step 4, we have getting your business number. And a business number is basically a unique 9-digit number that you'll need. And when you register your business at a registry office in Alberta, you may automatically be issued one via email. So kind of keep that in mind. If not, you may need to reach out to CRA directly. And kind of like how you have a social insurance number, your business would have a business number. Okay. So there are different accounts that you can also then attach to your business number. These could be things for purposes like GST, payroll, corporate tax, if you're importing or exporting. So depending on what your business is doing, you might need some of those accounts, you might need all of them, or you might not need any of them. So kind of keep that in mind as you move forward with your business. Okay, so next we have taxation. So with taxation, sole proprietorship and partnership, you'll be taxed on a personal income tax level. That'll be on your T1 personal tax return. And you may or may not need to collect GST as well. And then if you decide to incorporate, um, the corporation will first and foremost pay corporate tax through T2 form. And then if you decide to take money out, you'll be taxed again on that. So that could be through payroll if you're going to pay yourself as an employee, or it could be if you're going to issue yourself a dividend at the end of the year. Again, you'll be taxed on that. The best advice, hire an accountant, and then they can help kind of determine which might be the best course of action for you. And then a quick question I'll mention here. Federal corporation is double taxed. So again, work with your accountant on that. It doesn't really work like double taxation, depending on your business structure type, if you're provincially or federally incorporated, but the accountant will help kind of break that down a little bit further for you in terms of, again, how much tax you're going to pay on each of those. Okay. Perfect. And I think our last slide, one of our last slides talks about just some of the other considerations you'll have to think about. You'll want to look at protecting yourself. So be sure to explore getting business or commercial insurance. Should anything happen, you want to make sure you have some coverage. You may need to look at creating a bank account as well. In some cases, like a sole proprietor, you may be able to use your personal bank account and just maybe have an account attached to it. But with a corporation, it's mandatory that you have a completely separate bank account. So kind of keep that in mind. Have some really good strategies for your bookkeeping and keeping your receipts and invoices. So kind of make sure that's figured out. And then you also need to make sure you're marketing your business. You're getting word out about it. So you have a really good website, maybe a good social media strategy, things like that. And then be sure to consider any other written agreements or contracts that you might need to have, whether it's a lease or employee contract. Think about those things as well and get advice as you need. And then look at building a team around you, right? Rarely does everyone do it themselves with business. So kind of look at building that team of support around you, of people who can help you out. And I will provide their last slide, talks a bit about, again, Business Link, how you can get in touch with us. You have our toll-free number. You can also send us an email. On our website, we have our Contact Us form that you can also look at completing. And be sure to sign up for our e-newsletter and subscribe to our social media channels. And I think we have just a couple quick minutes for some questions. And I think there were a couple in the chat here. So one quick question: in a partnership, are the people involved taxed at the same income? So yeah, I guess it depends. So with partnership, you'll have to determine what percentage of each individual owns the partnership. It's a 50-50 split. Then you'll kind of split the profit accordingly. So it will depend on the individual's kind of tax situation, right? So that income will be added to their overall income on their personal side of things. So you could have two different people paying different amounts of tax on that business income that's generated. But yeah, very good question there.